because a third of the summer's games are behind us already. Oh man, it goes fast. They grow up so fast. Fnatic is still undefeated at the top of the table. And then H2K and Origin. Origin dropping their first game. Definitely will have something to prove in their game of the week versus Fnatic next week around. And as said at the bottom there, SK Gaming still, well, no one on the board, but this man right next to me is pretty happy. I mean, it's not the most impressive scoreline, but it's looking better.
I think with the progression we've made, I'm happy. And of course, beating Origin is a big confidence boost and a morale boost because we kind of need it after the loss against Giants. I think we underestimated and it showed in the strategy and the play. And we came back strong today, and I'm super happy.
Yeah, as you said, beating Origin. How does this change the matchup for next week versus Fnatic? Of course, we were going on that maybe they both go in undefeated. I actually think it might make it better, seeing that Origin has now hit some kind of a wall in this game, and they can improve on that.
I share the opinion. I think when a team that is at the top that has been unchallenged the entire time takes a loss that was unexpected to many, many people, it is a bit of a wake-up call. So I feel they're going to come into that game. They were always going to prepare for it. But now there's also they have to prove that they are the better team because of the fact they suffered a loss.
I think regardless of the outcomes of this week, the match is still going to be fantastic because even if Fnatic drop the game or Origin, there's both teams that won't be fazed by a loss. Yes, they will be hungry to improve, but they won't be thrown off at all. They'll just go into the week the same way, practice efficiently, and want to perform in the weekend. They have these veteran players. They're not going to get bothered by a loss. Neil seems to be very confident in his approach as well, so I feel we'll still see a very strong Origin next week, and I'm very looking forward to this match.
Yeah, absolutely, it's going to be crazy. Not a perfect week for them. It was a perfect week for H2K, though, and someone at the center of that and that success was Ryu. He picked up 8 kills, 11 assists, and a quadra kill, racking up a total of 41 fantasy points and leading the European LCS to close out the week. Do you have him, Trevor? That's the question.
Sadly, I do not have him on my team, but Hjarnan got me some bonus points with those 13 assists.
Just a little, yeah. And looking at the league overall, we've handpicked a list of 5 OP pros that set the bar in Week 3. And we're going to start with Huni. He had the most damage on Fnatic this week. Fantastic showing. He brought out the Echo top lane. Fantastic team play, but Huni always delivers.
Really, really good performance again. And I loved how he played Echo and how Fnatic played Echo around him. He got a lot of damage with Chrono Break, which is something nobody else has been able to do. And I think the strongest Echo performance of the week in many people's minds.
All right, and then our second OP player is another member of Fnatic, and, well, some would say a lot of those plays of Huni couldn't have happened without the pressure that Reignover's put on, and he's been a consistent for that team as well.
I think it really shows that you need to put value in how Fnatic play. Like Huni and Reignover, probably the strongest 2v2, like top lane jungle matchup that Europe has ever seen, I think.
All right, well, another 2-0 for Fnatic. We're starting to get used to it. And then our next OP player is Jankos. He is on your team, and you've had nothing but praise from him also when you were sitting here just talking to me during the game. What a fantastic player.
I have to say that Jankos is one of the most hardworking people I've ever met, and he really deserves this, and I have to say that I'm really, really proud of him.
It was super awesome to hear how happy he was on the desk. It's very rare that you see that amount of just glowing enjoyment, and it was a well-deserved victory.
Yeah. And, imagine what he can do if he picks some other junglers as well. It's going to be crazy, Amato.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. All right. Anyway.
Polybear. I'm waiting for it.
Our next OP player is a Gambit player, Cabo Shard. 75% kill participation. Definitely shining today.
Yeah, definitely shined today. And I think what was most impressive that this time it was without the help of Diamond Procs. He did it on his own. He played solid. Teleports were good. Lane pressure was good. Was where he needed to be, opened up the map with that split push, and he did he made possible what Gambit couldn't do yesterday. Driving home that advantage in the 4-1, drawing away people to his side to punish, and if they didn't come, then he would just take a tower, take an inhibitor, and fantastic play, and definitely worthy of the OP5.
Yep, and a 2-0 week for Gambit that is, and then our last OP player, Hjarnan. As said, H2K, they're a well-oiled machine, but in terms of shining, Hjarnan definitely yesterday on a Sivir, if I remember some of his fantastic positioning, and today on Jinx, of course, it's harder, but the way he managed to get out of some situations as well.
I think it's very important to highlight and respect consistency, because usually people look at these flashy players, oh, this guy did this flashy play, but Hjarnan is always consistent, never out of position, and plays really, really well all the time.
I mean, we saw it on your screen, but we have to just repeat it. He didn't die a single time this weekend. 0 deaths on an 80 carry in 2 fantastic matches, and not against the lightest opponents either, so fantastic play.
Yeah, definitely well deserved. But across the week, we also have to pick an MVP. One player put on a show as Twisted Fate and Lulu stepping up and carrying his team to victory. It was definitely a tough choice, but we have chosen to give the MVP of this week to Ryu because, well, you guys talk about it and we talk about it so much, not those extremely flashy plays instead, but sometimes more utility-based. But then he goes on Lulu here and gets a quadra kill, and that TF game yesterday was very impressive.
I mean, Yamato said you have to reward consistency, and he was consistently engaging with TF, winning these fights for his team against SK Gaming. And this game, well, was consistently a rampage. Quadra kill in the mid lane and then little town here. Mental warfare.
I think it's like, from my point of view as a coach, it's getting pretty scary because H2K, I always looked at them as the team that is like good as a team. But now they're like stepping up individually. So I'm pretty scared facing them in the future.
And maybe the better they get, the more we see that it's also individually, but it is scary, we can agree. And we will see if H2K can keep up that stellar play up next week. But first, things will get going in week 4 with Giants Gaming versus Gamut. We have Elements versus Roccat in there. The top of the table clash between Origin and Fnatic, the game of the week. Though, Elements versus Roccat, Yamato, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Is Elements looking better, but they haven't been able to grasp that one?
Like, I think like the first weeks they were looking okay and I thought they would progress. But it feels like they've taken a step back and they look kind of worse and worse. But obviously I'm not going to underestimate them. That happened this week and I'm never going to do that again, hopefully. And with that in mind, I think I haven't really started preparing for Elements, but I think the weaknesses are very obvious and it's their mid game.
All right, we will see
Maybe
next week.
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, we'll see. We're going to replay that if something bad happens. Anyway, the action gets going next Thursday at 6 p.m. Central European Summer Time. That is 9 a.m. Pacific. And then meanwhile, the North American LCS will get started tomorrow to fill your weekend with all the league you need. Enemy Esports takes on Team 8. We have Team Solo Mid looking to break their tie with Dignitas, and Liquid will face Cloud9. A lot of interesting matchups there. You're looking at Enemy again, Crepo?
No, I'm looking at Gravity against CLG. I think that will be a very fun match to watch. I think I'll be in my bed by then, so I'll have to watch the VOD, so no spoilers, please.
I've got my eyes on Incarnation. I really want to see how Cloud9 is meant to be playing with this guy because it's been a rocky start, and that was one of the biggest moves that we've seen in the summer split. So we'll keep an eye on them.
We'll see how it plays out. The cameras go live in LA at 6 p.m. Central European Time. That is noon Pacific, so don't be late. That is all for us here this week at the European LCS. I'd like to thank Yamato Cannon for joining us and lending a hand here on the desk today. And on behalf of myself and the rest of the team, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.